Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to For StarCraft 2 Strategy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Terran strategy. Now in this replay, our Terran player is Demuslim, and our Zerg opponent is Dark Force. I'm going to go right into Demuslim vision. Again, this is a Terran strategy. Basically what we're going to be looking at today is beginning the game with some Marine Hellion harassment, then switching tech into Cloaked Banshees and hitting your opponent from the air. Essentially what we're going to be looking to do is apply some early pressure with Marines and Hellions. Hellions do very well against Zerg early in the game, up until the point that they have roaches. You can really roast their workers, their drones, as well as their Zerglings with some proper micro. Coupled with the Marines to help support as well, it can be a very efficient attack when you do push out. And then from that point, we're going to be transitioning into Banshees to hit them from the air. Zerg really does have a problem up until they tech to up to layer tech. They really have a problem dealing with air units. The only real defense that they have are Queens, unless of course they get an evolution chamber and get some spore crawlers as well. But to kind of remedy this and try to prevent this from happening, what we're going to be looking to do is use our Marines in our base to kind of hug the rim of our base, the edges of our base, and prevent any Overlord scouting. Now I'm not entirely sure if Demuslim actually does that in this particular game, but that's something that I just do want to mention that you guys should implement when going for this type of strategy. Doing that, trying to deny that Overlord scouting, can be very beneficial for you. Gonna start off by taking a look at this build order here. We began with that 10 supply depot, followed up with a 12 barracks and a 13 refinery, so very standard as far as openings are concerned. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Now once this barracks is done building at 16 supply, we're going to be building our Orbital Command, also of course starting with that early Marine to help fend off any early Zerglings, as well as that Overlord Scout. Like I said, try to keep those Overlords out of your base. You can do this very efficiently with Marines, and in doing so, preventing that scouting information, you can really take your Zerg opponent by surprise. So here you go, 16 supply. We did start dropping that Orbital Command. Now moving out with our scout here, I typically choose to move out right after that supply depot at 10. I believe he did move out in this particular video right after that barracks. Either way, it doesn't really matter. A little safer if you move out earlier, but at the same time your economy is going to be hurting a little bit more as a result. So we do finally find our opponent. We're going to get a full scout of his base. Again, there's no reason to leave up until the point that we have Zerglings. Now in seeing that spawning pool, we do know Zerglings could very well be hatching, so we do want to leave. No reason to lose that SCV unnecessarily. Going to try to get him back to our base without getting chased down by these Zerglings. Not quite sure if that's going to work out, but we shall see. So we do have these two Marines fending the front of our base here. This is going to help prevent the Zerglings from doing any harassment, picking off our supply depots. Now we do have this barracks coming. As soon as that first refinery finished building, we did of course saturate that. Then we dropped down our factory, rather. I'm sorry, I think I just called this a barracks. We dropped down our factory at 18 supply, and then we followed that up with another refinery at 21 supply. So again, we're beginning this game with some Marine Hellion harassment, and as I said earlier, Hellions are very strong against Zerg early game up until the point that they have roaches. You can really do a number to their mineral line as well as their Zerglings, and we're going to be following that up with a tech switch right to Banshees. So as soon as this factory is done, we're dropping that Starport. That happened to be a 26 supply. Also going to be getting a second Starport because we are going to be hard teching into Banshees. We're going to be getting as many Banshees as we can. It's basically, we're pushing straight for it. We're not just kind of getting Banshees out of one Starport. We're going to be getting those two, and getting a lot out of just those production from two Starports. Now, like I had said earlier, it is a good idea to, while you're building up and while you're preparing for your push out, to use those Marines to pepper the edge of your base and stop any Overlord scouting. Now again, Demuslim didn't particularly do this in this game, but you got to figure while those Marines are sitting in your base and while you're waiting to mount an attack, you might as well put use to them and use them to help prevent scouting information from your opponent. This will be very beneficial to you. Obviously, the less your opponent knows, the better position you're going to be in. So we do have that second Starport going down right now as well. Also attaching the tech lab to our initial first. Man, I don't know if you guys watch because you enjoy the step-by-step commentaries or because you enjoy listening to me screw up words, because I definitely do the latter very often. So we're attaching that tech lab to the Starport, and what we're going to be doing is while we're pushing out at that exact moment, we're going to start producing our first Banshee, and we're going to continue to produce Banshees while we're harassing our opponent. Essentially, we're going to try to keep them occupied with this harassment. Trying to micro our units around, keep them alive, keep them away from spine crawlers, try to keep them out of the range of these queens here as well. And while we're doing this, we're preparing for our follow-up. We're getting those Banshees out of our starports. And again, what this is going to do is, in distracting your opponent with this attack and in harassing them as much as possible, you're going to kind of keep them preoccupied. I guarantee you right now, your Zerg opponent's not going to be thinking about, ooh, I wonder if Banshees are coming. They're going to be thinking about, what the hell, I need to get rid of these Hellions. That's kind of funny. So, I mean, he's building roaches right here. Again, Hellions are very strong up until roaches get on the board. So now that those roaches are there, our Hellions are pretty much rendered ineffective. But since while we were attacking, while we were doing harassment, we were at the same time producing these Banshees, we can now follow immediately up with this Banshee harassment. Now we're also getting that Cloaking Field. We started researching that at 36 supply. Once he finally decides to start using his queens rather to fend off these Banshees, hopefully our Cloaking Field will be up by that point and will render his queens ineffective. He will then be forced to get an Overseer to gain that cloak detection, and then he's going to be forced to use his queens as well and sacrifice his queens thusly, because the Banshees will kill the queens. Now they're kind of on even footing. Now with that cloak, your Banshees will have that slight advantage, again, up until the point that he has that Overseer. So take advantage of that. First thing you're going to want to do when you move into your opponent's base is pick off those queens. That's going to be priority numero uno, and then after that I'd be going for the economy, trying to take out his workers, and then after that any important tech buildings. Now while he's running away his queen, rather than wasting all your time trying to chase it down, as you saw, we did switch to his mineral line, and basically that's going to force him to engage his queen with you, because if he doesn't, he's just going to lose all of his workers. So you can really put them in a bind. This fast tech switch from that early Marine Hellion Harass into these Banshees can be very devastating, as you can see. That Cloak has finished researching now, so he's forced to get this Overseer right here. But even with that Overseer, unless he gets a ton of queens on the board, which he does have the second one, but we're going to take it down so quickly. I mean, now that we have 4 Banshees in this base, there's really very little he can do. Is going for the Hydralisk Den, and this of course would be effective. Now something I want to tell you is that if you see that Hydralisk Den going down, I would make that your next priority, because if you can stop that from producing, if you can stop that from finishing building, then you're going to basically win the game no matter what. There'll be nothing he can do at that point. Even if he continuously keeps producing queens, you can just keep rallying more Banshees over into his base, and there's going to be little he can do. Now also, if this hadn't been a fully successful push and as far as taking out our opponent, we were preparing for an expansion as well. When you push out, as soon as you get those excess minerals, go ahead and drop down another command center, because you're going to be doing so much damage in this harassment. Initially that Marine and Hellion harassment, and then following it up immediately with these Banshees. You're going to be doing so much damage just with that you should be able to safely expand as well. So take advantage of that opportunity and go ahead and do so. Going to go ahead and take one look at that build order real quick. Started off with that standard opening and that 10 supply depot, 12 barracks, and 13 refinery. Then at 16 supply, we got that orbital command, again, pretty much per the usual. At 18 supply, we dropped our first factory. We did that basically as soon as we had our first 100 Vespian gas. 21 supply is when we got our second refinery, and then at 26 supply, basically again, once that factory was done building, we went ahead and got our first starport. Second starport came at 32. We started researching Cloaking Field at 36 supply, and again we started out with that initial Marine and Hellion harassment, that initial push. As soon as we were doing that, we began creating our Banshees, and then once that push was done, we immediately moved out with our Banshees and followed it up with that harass. And switching from that ground harassment to that air to ground harassment can be very effective, because you can essentially catch your opponent off guard. So once again, guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 Strategy. If you guys like our videos and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. You do want to make sure you don't get surrounded by these drones here. You're going to be in a very tough spot if you do get surrounded. They're going to be able to do enough damage to your Marines to kill them. So just make sure you pull back and attack when you're at range, and then continue to do that until you whittle down his forces. So again, in this particular replay, our Zerg opponent did try to go for a fast expansion.